The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Spellbreakers, badlandsmedia.tv. And we are coming to you live on a Friday night at last. We're running about 5 minutes late on the intro because somebody forgot to put in the new stream keys, even though he got them sent to him, perfectly valid ones. And then it took a few minutes to get things going because, well, you know, things like that happen. But we're here live, and we're good to see people coming into the chat. Oh, my friends are here. I love seeing you guys every week. I love coming, sitting down and talking to you guys on a Friday night. And tonight we've got, I've been so tuned out of the news all week. You know, just the big things have made it like, what even happened this week? I can tell you, I'm glad the World Cup is over. The World Cup was absorbing a lot of my time. I love it. I loved having all the foreigners here. I loved that. But you know, the World Cup is it's like 6 weeks long, and the World Cup isn't just a soccer game. You know, it's not a soccer match, I guess. It's a tournament, and to really enjoy the tournament, you have to pay attention to the whole tournament and what all the teams are doing. And that was actually a lot of mental effort I've discovered over the last 6 weeks to do that. And then there was GART, and there were a bunch of other things, and so mentally, it's been a lot of concentration on things. So I'm glad that it's over and we go on. And so tonight, with things a little bit more relaxed, and it's summertime, and life goes on, and we've got the Iran war, and we've got all the things with Trump going on. We've got the midterms, and we've got these decisions with the mail-in ballots, and it's all very exciting, you know. And we've got the Democrats doing their thing, and so I just thought this week, it's summer. Now that we've got America, you know, we had America 250. I said, let's jump over the pond. You know, the English came here to our tournament, and they were so, you know, they were here right during the 250th birthday, and most of them were very good sports about it. You know, that we talking about our nation's independence, and the English team was here, and the English have their own team of their own nation, England. You know, and I personally don't have, even with the 250th things, I don't have any beef with the English people, right? We don't have any beef with the English people. In fact, they're our friends. An American system of government and our culture comes from England primarily, and the colonists thought of themselves as Englishmen, and so we don't have any beef with that, with the English people. I think. I don't. Maybe you do. I don't. But let's be clear. When we talk about Great Britain and the crown and all this, we have a whole different kind of situation, right? So tonight we're going to sort of talk about that, because you know, people have been talking more maybe on Badlands, but also elsewhere, about this concept called the City of London. And what is the City of London? Well, it's a bunch of things. Why don't we get right to it? But what I thought about doing this evening for you guys is I sort of want to pretend like we're going abroad. It's like a summer abroad. We're all gonna go along. Bring your passports. Bring your passports. Maybe you don't want to go, but you can listen. And we're going to go over to England, and we're going to go to London, and we're going to go to this place called the City of London that you've heard about, and we're going to explore it. We're going to do a walking tour. That's what I thought of. It's just for fun. It's just for fun. But we're also going to talk about very serious things about history and current events mixed with it all. So that's the gag for now. That's what I want to do tonight. So tonight's episode of Spellbreakers, Walking Tour Summer Abroad in the City of London, is going to be brought to you in part by our friends at MyPillow.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pier 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
All right, and we're also sponsored this evening by River, our good friends.
Your bank kept $1,600 from you in 2025. You probably didn't notice. Now multiply that by millions of Americans. That's over $433 billion in interest the banks kept. Your money goes in. Banks put it to work. They make record profits. You get almost nothing in return. And when they blow up, guess who has to bail them out? So what are you supposed to do? Ask politely? Wait? Accept that this is just how banking works? Or you could put your money where it works for you. On River, your cash earns 3.3%, paid in Bitcoin. Earning Bitcoin gives your money even more room to grow. And it's just as easy as how you bank today. You can get paid, pay your bills, and access your money anytime. Start banking with Bitcoin on River.
badlandsmedia.tv/river. You will not regret it.
You will not regret it. Our founder John says, "Hello, everybody in the chat. I've seen so many people." Oh, so Keith O'Hagan says, "I have to compete with Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner." Yeah, well, c'est la vie, you know. That happens, right? So for those of you who want to hang out here, yeah, we're going to go on a walking tour of the City of London. So yes, Miss Rhea Freedom Fighter, hello. Mud Girl in Arizona, hello. Easy was here. Hello, Scheisler. Leslie Bayer. I see CanCon rated the stream. Hello, CanCon, if you're still there. I really appreciate you dropping by. I always appreciate the raids, you know, getting some of that audience there. Such an honor. You know, one of my personal heroes, CanCon is, I have to say. Eleanor 2000. Hello to Leslie Bayer. Hello, Be Happy 731. Hope I'm reading everybody. Claire Cat 367. Good evening and happy Friday, Badlanders, and a special shout out to my friends in Oregon. Claire Cat always reminds me of that. So let's. I always got all my Oregon peeps. I'm an ex-Oregonian. I got a college degree there, so I sort of got cred. All right, Jin 771 TX. Okay, all right. Hello, everybody. So you got your passports. We're flying over to London, and we're going to land, and we're going to explore this mysterious place called the City of London. All right. Let's see here. What do we got? We're going to share the screen. That's what we're going to do. Just like the old days, just like the old days. Here we go. All right. And let's make sure. Okay, good. There I am. I'm small, and this is big. Spellbreakers 174, Summer Abroad, the City of London, July 24th, 2026. So join our walking tour. I'm like I'm Rick Steves of Badlands tonight. Hello, everybody. we have to build bridges, not walls. Okay, so I love Rick Steves and I hate Rick Steves, both. Love-hate relationship. He certainly uses travel tips over the. He's got some hang-ups about medieval Europe that I'm not so into. He's like always bashing medieval Europe, which was actually a great era. So anyway, here we go. Summer Abroad, City of London. So our guidebook this evening is a book I've owned for I bought this in the year 2000. In November of the year 2000, I bought this when I was in London. It's got a price in pounds on the back. Books, etc. Limited, £11. How the City of London Works. That's what you see on the screen right there. It's the 5th edition by William M. Clark. I don't know where I bought it exactly, but it was in London, or maybe it might have been at the airport. No, it was somewhere in the city. I mean the London, the big city, the City of London. So you got to keep your terms straight. So we're going to use this as our guidebook, and we're going to learn some things about this mysterious place that everybody's talking about. Okay, so here we go. Beginner's Guide to the City of London. These are just some quick notes. City of London, what is it? Why is it significant? Why is it significant right now? What does it tell us about current events and geopolitics? What does it tell us about I put Iraq War. I should say Iran War, meant to say. What does it tell us about Donald Trump and his real agenda? Now, we're not going to answer all these questions tonight, but they may come up because, we like to talk about these things in Badlands. That's why we're here, is we like to talk about this stuff. And so this is a personalized Badlands tour of the City of London, especially for Badlanders. City of London. So the meaning. Let's just talk about the meaning of the term now. It has a literal meaning. It has a geographic and historical meaning. It has a synecdochal meaning. You know what that means? Synecdoche. Do you know what that means? That's when like one word stands for a whole part of something. Like a synecdoche is when, like, they say the White House, and they don't mean, when they say the White House said this today, they don't mean that the actual house spoke with a big mouth like out of some cartoon. They mean that the organizational executive branch office of the president said this today. So that's a rhetorical thing in language where you use like a building or a city to mean a bunch of other things. And City of London has that too. It has a literal meaning, as we know, but it also has this meaning of something bigger, this network of influence that goes beyond even its geographic boundaries. So we'll talk about that tonight too, but we're going to concentrate on actually being there in this place that's in London. So let's go there, and we're just going to plop down. It's like we're blindfolded and we got off the plane, and I've driven you in a bus, or had somebody. We're driving on a bus right into the heart of the city, and we're getting off, and we're dropped off. We're dropped off at a place, and it's just in the middle of the city, and we're just going to find our way around from there. All right. So here's England. We flew into this, right? We flew into here. And we flew into outside of London, maybe Heathrow Airport, which is outside of London. Which if you could see the map here of Britain, it's a physical map of Britain and Great Britain, the island of Great Britain, and the island of Ireland, which together comprise which they make up the British Isles. And of course, London is the biggest city there, as well as the capital of one of the nations there. Well, we all know this, right? I don't have to mention these, but we're just creating some intro material here while we warm up. And here we are, but we're smack in the middle. We're here. We're going to zoom right into these streets here that if you can see on the screen. Now, if you're not watching, if you just got audio tonight, I'll just try to describe what's happening. What you're seeing on the map here is a map of some streets. And this is right in the middle of London, of Greater London. So, and we're going to, and when we talk about the City of London, we don't mean Greater London, like the big city of London with all its boroughs and everything. We don't mean that, of course. We mean just one little part of it, and we'll get to that one little part in a minute. But you'll see where we are. But for now, we're just dropped down in the middle of these streets, because we're going to see how the City of London works. The following walk through the city. So this is out of this book. I'm going to read a little bit out of this book, but not too much. The following walk through the city. So we're somewhere in Greater London. We'll see where. The following walk through the city, and now this means this thing we call the City of London. Calling it some of the markets is designed to provide a visual impression of what the City of London, really stands for. This is what we want to know. We want to know what's going on there. And we're going to do a walking tour for that. For active markets and money, goods and services, they provide the same color, bustle, and noise of markets anywhere, with one major difference. The prices are rather higher. Okay. This was written in 1999, by the way, because I bought this book in the year 2000. Several parts of the city and its markets can still be visited. Now, by markets, they mean financial markets, and also sometimes like markets for produce and meat are still in the City of London too, for now. I think the last one's being taken out, the Smithfield markets. But for now, there's all types of buying and selling that still go on there. It's not a big shopping district. Like if you want to go there and like go to a department store, you don't go to the City of London. It doesn't have like a street that's like a mall. It's really old school type of markets, okay? That's where we are. And you might think we must be smack in the center of Greater London, but we're not actually. We'll see where we are. We're actually off to one side. It's all rather weird. Several parts of the city, this little place within it, square mile, as CanCon mentioned, several parts of the city and its markets can still be visited, but it is no longer the easy arrangement it used to be. Some markets, such as the stock exchange, see what I mean, financial market, stock exchange, have been replaced by computer screens and offices. Some remain closed. Others, such as the Bank of England Museum, the London Metal Exchange, and the Baltic Exchange, cannot cope with large numbers. So appointments and forward planning are essential. So that's the kind of thing you're going to find in the City of London, is financial markets mostly, and also historical things too. And it's going to be financial markets and the people that work there. And it's not like the most touristy part of London. If you're going to go to London and go on a day-long tour, you're probably going to go to the City of London, but maybe not to see any of the financial markets. They're sort of, unless you're really out to look at them, they're not as interesting as just as visual appeal, you know. And it's really, you know, it's like being in a financial district, literally. So if that's not your thing on a tour, it's not your thing. But it's our thing tonight, right? We're interested in that because we want to know about power. We want to know, we have an inkling that somehow this has to do with power in the world, power of the globalists, power over the United States, and it does. But we're going to see it through the lens of what's actually there. We're going to concentrate on what's actually there and extrapolate from there. Okay, so we mentioned London Metal Exchange, Baltic Exchange. What the heck is that? Okay, so you see a map here, and what we're starting at is there's a little map, if you can see there, and if you can see a black circle with a horizontal line through it, that symbol means a tube station on the London Underground. And there's a tube station right smack in the center of the financial part of the City of London, this little part in Greater London. And it's the Bank station. It's just called Bank. And it refers to the Bank of England, but the station's just called Bank because, you know, why bother saying Bank of England? It's just Bank. It's Bank. That's where it is. So, and then there's Monument, okay, is nearby. And the streets around it, if you can see the map, it's got a bunch of streets here. Threadneedle Street. That sounds really gnarly. Cornhill, okay. Lombard Street. Fenchurch Street, Lime Street. We're going to visit Lime Street. We're going to visit most of these streets. St. Mary Axe, A-X-E. That's a street in this part of the City of London. It's in these narrow streets, you know, and that's the actual name, St. Mary Axe. It sounds sort of gnarly, like it's a Catholic horror movie or something, like something out of the Exorcist Part 4 or something, you know. But it was actually, there was an old church there in the Middle Ages. There was a church there. And it had an axe as its symbol. It was dedicated to Mary, and it had an axe. It's literally St. Mary Axe, you know. But it's not, the church isn't there anymore. All right, and there's Cannon Street. There's a place called East Cheap. So cheap in medieval English meant a market. It didn't mean like inexpensive. It meant like a market. So this was the Eastern Market, and then there's West Cheap is a little bit west of this map, but they started calling West Cheap as Cheapside at one point. And you're going to see that too. And the thing to call out about Cheapside is if you've ever read Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, the Chaucer used to hang out in Westcheap or Cheapside when he was alive in the 14th century, and the Canterbury Tales basically start there. They're going to start, basically he wrote them while he was hanging out there. Okay. So we're going to go from the bank station, and we're going to wander around to these numbered places, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that you see on a map. So let's start doing that. Oh, here's a tube map of bank station. So this is, if we'd gotten here by tube instead of being dropped off from the airport as we were, we could have gotten on the tube. And we'll get on the tube in the next episode. I don't know. But for now, the bank tube station is right there. And you can see this is the kind of map you would use. And there's the actual underground bank station right there. That's where we are. This is where we are right now, if you can see on the screen. So it's yes. Okay. All right. Good. I'm just checking to see if the audio goes out. I gotta do my Matt thing and make sure I'm still I haven't knocked the audio off the air. All right. So this is where we are. We're at the underground bank, with the underground station, bank station, and in the background is the Bank of England. But we're going to check that out in more detail in a second. So we're right in the middle of the City of London, which is right in the middle of Greater London, which is in southern part of England, and that's where we are. We're by this station. So let's check it out. So we're going to use this map as a guide, and I'm going to read you from the book. So this is part of the book. So we're right by there, and we can see you can see number 1 is across the street. There's a number 1 across the street in the map. So what's that? Let's check that out. So I'm going to read from the book here. Number one, our first stop, we just look across the street. We turn around, look across the street, and we see this. This is a nice old Palladian style. So Palladio was a Renaissance architect in Italy, right? And he had a style of buildings that were very symmetrical and classical, because they just rediscovered some of the classic works on. They rediscovered them because they printed them with the printing press. Let's face it. But the books on architecture from classical times with classical symmetry, and it became the rage. And Palladio was one of the architects that did that concentrate on this. And this is in his style, and it was built. Well, I'm going to see when it was built here. Let's see. So, but this is called Mansion House. This is not the Bank of England. This is our first stop. So across the street, please look at Mansion House. So Mansion House. The Mansion House is what? It's the official residence of the Lord Mayor of London. The Lord Mayor of London lives there. And so the Lord Mayor of London is what? The Lord Mayor of London is not the mayor of all of London. You've heard of Sadiq Khan, right? So Sadiq Khan is the mayor of Greater London, the London that is basically the metropolis. It has official suburbs too, but the big city of London, that's run by its own corporation and the Greater London Authority, and the mayor is Sadiq Khan, and he's Muslim. And it's thought that they're going to have a Muslim mayor of London from here on out, because the Muslims will always be able to vote in their own guy at this point, because there's enough Muslims that live in Greater London, along with white labor voters, that they're going to probably keep a Muslim person as the mayor of Greater London going forward. You might think. You never know. But in the City of London, which is this tiny little part within Greater London, it has its own government. It has its own government, and it's run by the corporation of the City of London, the Corporation of London, and the elected leader of the Corporation of London, who is elected by residents of the City of London and by institutions within it. It's a really strange government. They elect Lord Mayor of London, who doesn't have a lot of power. It's sort of ceremonial, or is it? You never know. And above the Lord Mayor of the City of London is only the King or Queen. So it's its own thing under all the government of Britain, which is sort of a clue to how this all works, right? This is really embedded into the structure of power in its government. But we shouldn't dwell too much on the government of the City of London right now that governs this little part within the Greater London, because that's not the big story. Yeah, it's a link to the crown. It's a link to formalized the feudal era power. Yes, but that's only one component of it. Really, it's the financial institutions that are there that really make it what it is. So let's check out that. So we saw the Lord Mayor of London. That's the house there, and it's a nice house. And let's go look now. Let's look. Well, first of all, if you want to see the current Lord Mayor of London, it is this woman. Her name is Dame Susan Langley. She is the whatever I don't know in the series of Lord Mayors of London that go back to the year 1189. So this is pretty old government. 1189. That's just right after the Norman Conquest. So within 100 years, just over 100 years after the Norman Conquest. So I want to say Plantagenet dynasty, maybe Henry II. Yeah, it's probably Henry II era. So Henry II, played by Peter O'Toole. Well, he's the son. Anthony Hopkins. No, Anthony Hopkins the son. Anyway, Kate Hepburn was Eleanor of Aquitaine in that movie. So that's the era of the medieval era we're talking about, that the City of London government. So this is the current one, is Dame Susan Langley. Probably not a name you've heard. And she lives in that house you saw. So let's continue on our walking tour. So it's 6:34. Okay. Here is now a map of Greater London with all of its boroughs. And you can see that, well, actually, the City of London, number one, is that little nugget, little nucleus in Greater London. That is the border of the City of London, just about a square mile. And that's where the Lord Mayor is Susan Langley. And Sadiq Khan, who's down in the lower left, is the mayor for all of this thing. And so one is the City of London. Just upstream on the Thames River from one is the region marked 2 on this map. 2 is if you go to London and you're just there for a tourist and you stay in a nice hotel and you walk around and you see the museums, etc. You're probably spending most of your time in 2, not in 1. In 2. 2 is called Westminster, and it's its own borough within Greater London. And it has its own government, but not like the City of London government. And there's more people that live there, and that's where Buckingham Palace is. That's where Westminster Abbey is. That's where Hyde Park is. That's where the fun stuff like where Sherlock Holmes lived. All that's in Westminster, and that's the celebrities might live in there. So they don't live in. Nobody lives much in the City of London unless you really want to live it's like living in Lower Manhattan, which people do, but it takes a special breed, and there are people that live there. All right, and then downstream is Region 8. We're going to visit that too. That's East London, so we'll see how that works out too. So anyway, let's look across the street. Let's turn the other way and across the street, and this is, you can see another building, again, very classical style. This is the Royal Exchange. The Royal Exchange. So this is a key institution in the City of London too. In the past, the Royal Exchange has housed the city's foreign exchange market and Lloyd's. We'll talk about Lloyd's. Neither the foreign exchange market or Lloyd's is there. And I just learned this today, which is ironic because I bought this book to go over in 2000 because I was going over to stay in London for a while and work at a bank that's headquartered in the City of London. But I didn't work in the City of London. I worked in a newer financial area that I'll mention a little bit later. That's the extension of the City of London. But I was working in foreign exchange, and I never, it's like I should have gone to visited this place, because this was the original foreign exchange in London. And so, but did I do that? No. Did I read this book? No. Not until now. I'm finally reading the book, and I'm giving you the tour. So the Royal Exchange has housed the city's foreign exchange market and Lloyd's. So it has in the past. It doesn't anymore. At present, it is the home of the Guardian Insurance Group. The present building was opened by Queen Victoria on October 28th, 1844. Royal Exchange Assurance, now merged in the Guardian Insurance Group, have occupied the building and its two predecessors since 1720. 1720. So that's about, 50 years plus before the American Revolution. We're talking about the Hanover Dynasty. So George III was the king when the American colonies revolted, right? So I think George I, his grandfather, who was the first of the Hanoverians, they came over from Germany, right? And founded a new dynasty. Except it wasn't. Here's the thing. Here's something to know about England. You talk about this dynasty and that dynasty and that dynasty, as far as the monarchy. They're all branches of the same family. That's nobody disputes that. That's very important. Is that they've had the same ruling family since the year what? Since the year 1066, the Norman conquest. That was a true change of family line, or was it? Maybe not, but at least since 1066, it's the same family. It's the same family. It's just different branches of it. You follow a male heir or the female heir correctly as the senior line, until you get to some point where it has to jump because that line runs out. But they always pick another branch from the same family tree that's descended from William the Conqueror. That's very important. The Britons had a stable monarchy for over 1,000 years. Well, almost 1,000 years. In 2066, it'll be 1,000 years, if it makes it that far. There was an interruption when there was no monarchy for a while. That was, of course, in the English Revolution, which we'll talk about that some other time. And but after the late 17th century, so around the 1680s, you get a whole different kind of revolution happening in England, which is modern capitalism comes in, and the City of London takes on its current character from that, even though the City of London's older. Okay. Now let's check this building out. This is, if you can see on the screen, this is the Bank of England. Now look at that building. It looks like, you see it looks like a little fortress in its first 2 floors. And then on top is built sort of a neoclassical structure, but with some kind of, Regency era, I want to say. So Regency means of time in the 18th century, right? I'm not sure what kind of style is the rest of it when it was built, but it dates from the mid 1700s too, I think. The Bank of England as an institution dates from the year 1688. 1694. But the bank is a little bit newer than that, but it's pretty old. And one of the things about it is it contains all the gold reserves of the Bank of England, all the gold reserves of the British government, of the United Kingdom, are all housed there. And there may, who knows what else is there, right? There may be, and there's, maybe all the gold in Fort Knox is there. It's supposed to be in Fort Knox, could be here, could be right here. So that should give you a little bit of an indication about why we're talking about this place. Is that it's not unreasonable to assume that they might open Fort Knox and find that it's empty, and that all the gold was taken away long ago. And where would it have gone? Well, where it might have gone at first, at least, is the vaults here, Bank of England. All right. So there we go. Let's read about it here. The Bank of England, founded in 1694. The Bank of England did not move into Threadneedle Street. So this is a Threadneedle Street right here where it is, number 3 right there, until 1734. So this dates from about 32 years before the Declaration of Independence. The nickname, the Old Lady of Threadneedle Street, was first used in James Gilroy's cartoon of 1797. So they call this the Old Lady of Threadneedle Street. The bank expanded to cover the present site between 1765 and 1833, and was finally rebuilt by Sir Herbert Baker between 1925 and 1939. In the vaults are the nation's gold reserve. So the current structure dates from, okay, so that's why it looks so modern. It looks like a hotel up there, because that part was probably redone between 1925 and 1939. So can you see what I mean by, if you're going to go to London as a tourist, you may not spend a lot of time around this area because it's very imposing and neoclassical and glass and steel, because it reflects a different kind of thing than Westminster and all the fun part of London. This is the serious part of London. And everything that goes on here is really serious, and it affects everything in the world. And you say, why? Why is there so much power in this place? Didn't Britain sort of go into decline and lost its colonies and got eclipsed by the United States? Why on earth is the City of London, are we treating it still so as important? And one key to think about that is that the City of London, it's like a little, it's its own thing embedded into England, into London, into England, into Great Britain. And in some ways, they're worlds apart. And so in some ways, the City of London doesn't even have much to do with England anymore. Not the English people, not England, not Great Britain. It's its own standalone entity that is like the globalist, it's like the globalist chip, like a computer chip, like you put a chip in your phone. It's like if you can install the globalist chip in Great Britain and have it basically run the world through England, just using England as like the host country for this. Think of that. Great Britain and England are the host country of the City of London. Think of it that way. That's why we can feel sorry for. That's why they don't care about if England goes into decline and falls apart. They don't care if Britain falls into the ocean. They get by on their own. They're like their own thing, this place now. Except it does date from the Middle Ages. So it's actually been part of England and Britain for a long time, but it's still its own thing, and it's probably more its own thing than it's ever been in its history. Its own thing. All right. So there's Bank of England. Here it is up close. There's a little bit closer view, Bank of England. Here's a drawing of it from the 18th century. Several views, front and back. This back and front. Here is the sealing of the Bank of England Charter in 1694. So you can see it's very serious business. So 1694. So we're not at the year 1700 yet. This is when the Bank of England is founded, and it's 6 years after something important happened in English history, which is something called the Glorious Revolution. The Glorious Revolution was 1688, and it was a change of dynasty. It was a revolution, but it was a change of dynasty from the existing House of Stuart, which had come from Scotland, to the House of Orange, which was the ruling house of the Netherlands. So it's sort of like, it seems like the Dutch sort of conquered. They were welcomed in. They were invited in the House of Orange by influential people in England. Say, please take over the crown. We need, and it had to do because the House of Orange was Protestant, and they wanted the line to be Protestant. So they changed the law. The Parliament changed the law about succession because Parliament could determine who would be next as the sovereign. And so they arranged it so it had to be Protestant. So they brought over this Dutch house, and the Dutch brought with them a whole system of capitalism, including the idea of modern banking. And so within 6 years, they have the founding of this large creditory institution, the Bank of England. It becomes this first institution of the City of London, which had been an existing medieval government of guilds and markets and things like this. But now it's going to take on a whole new meaning. And it's still going today. Here's a banknote dated 1699 from the Bank of England. I found this on Wikipedia. So how did it all work? Dividend day at the bank, 1770. So the year 1770, right on the eve of the American Revolution. So if you were a shareholder, you could buy shares in the Bank of England. Subscriptions, I think if you did, you got a dividend because it's a corporation. It's like buying stock in a bank. And you got a dividend each year. And but the rule was you had to be physically present on one certain day of the year. On that certain day of the year, you had to be physically present at the Bank of England to collect it in person. So all the shareholders were there in person on this day to collect their dividends, or else they lost out. All right, so here, this is going to show this. This is the outline of City of London. We'll get back to this, but you can see it's very small. It's right on the northern bank of the Thames. This is well, we'll get to the old City of London. I almost didn't want to put that one there. Let's keep walking. So that's number 3. Let's walk over to number 4. Now we're walking over to number 4, which is just a little bit down Threadneedle Street. See, we're moving right along. We're moving our tour right along. But yeah, we're 6:48. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Hello, McGriff. Hello, McGriff. One of my Oregon listeners. Yeah, Eleanor 2000. Yeah, and William couldn't speak English, right? Yeah, I think he could only speak Norman French. William the Conqueror. The Normans. So I really hope I can use this episode to dovetail into some of these other things, like the Normans and who they were, because I really believe that understanding that aspect of history really it has really helped me understand how globalism works, what is this sort of monster that seeks to rule the world, and to look at things from the past. You come into focus about patterns of human behavior, patterns of human government, patterns of human power structures that happen over and over again in history. People get hung up on the continuity, like, oh, this has to be descended from this royal house 1,000. People get sort of a little bit hung up on the literalism. Really, it's just about the same. I think it's about the same genres of power structures that arise over and over again in human history. It's almost like our brains are hardwired to accept certain power structures and to go along with them. And some people are meant to even rule them, but that's very rare. Timothy Leary, actually, Timothy Leary, the LSD guru, he actually had a whole theory. I read it when I was in Austin in graduate school about he thought that people who ruled, who were born to rule, were born and bred into a specific neurological state in their brains that he called the crown, which is just you're born and raised knowing you're going to rule, and a special mindset takes over you. I thought the show The Crown with about Queen Elizabeth actually reflected this pretty well. You go into a certain mentality of rulership. That's one aspect of thinking about all of this. That's the ruler aspect. Then there's the rest of us who are sort of programmed to, dare I say, submit. We're all programmed to submit to a higher authority, whether it's God or secular authority. And these power structures that occur over and over again in human history, I think we learn a lot about our own power structure today by looking at ones of the past. And that's what we're doing in a way. So we're up to number 4 now. We're down on Threadneedle Street. So we saw the Lord Mayor's house. We saw the old foreign exchange, Royal Exchange, and we saw the Bank of England, which is still going strong. It's still going strong. It hasn't moved out of there. There's a nice museum there we could visit later. Now we're on to number 4, and number 4 is what? Number 4 is this building you see on the screen right here. This building is, so you see actually what looks like 2 buildings. They're actually the same building. So this is the one on the left, and then it's the same building, but they put a cladding over it of glass and steel, like around it. They did that about 20 years ago. And this building is the This is the London. Well, no, this is not the London Stock Exchange. This was the headquarters of the London Stock Exchange. This used to be the LSE, they call it, the London Stock Exchange. So again, a very key component of the City of London would be its stock exchange, right? Just like for Wall Street, it's the it's the stock exchange on Wall Street. Here's London, but it's not the only important thing. We got the Bank of England right nearby too. Now the stock exchange is not here anymore. They moved out of this building, and they moved into a different building. But this one, this one was opened in 1972, the one on the left, and then they redid it with glass plating. But then they moved out, and they moved out to a different place. The city, and the reason is because they didn't need the trading floor anymore. They didn't need all these offices. They got rid of the trading floor, so the traders aren't sitting there yelling at each other, like they do in trading places. Which that's Chicago, of course, and they got rid of that. So they didn't need this building. So they moved out into a different place. It will show pictures of that. So here is, the stock exchange, by the way, began in a coffee shop, Jonathan's Coffee Shop, which is right near where we're walking in this area of City of London. Now, something beginning in a coffee shop, this is going to crop up again. This is, so we'll talk about coffee shops in London, and we're going to visit one. Don't worry. If I'm going to talk about coffee shops, we're going to go to a coffee shop here in London. Here is the new stock exchange. It's way over to the west of the current map, but we won't worry about this area for now. But you can see a very contemporary building. But again, there's no trading floor, so there's nothing really fun that happens there. It's just the headquarters, the office headquarters of it. And it all happens in, trading screens now in cyberspace, all the trading. So, but they still need a headquarters with offices to people that run it and stuff, make sure their websites work and all that stuff. Now, so let's go on. Let's go on to number 5. We're going to walk a couple blocks down Threadneedle Street and go down Cornhill, and then we're going to go up to St. Mary's Axe and turn down this narrow street, St. Mary's Axe, which I mentioned was also a church in the Middle Ages with St. Mary with an axe. Okay, that's what they tell me, at least on Wikipedia. Or I think actually I learned that from ChatGPT. What is this? This is called the Baltic Exchange. The Baltic Exchange. And this is, what on earth is that? Like the Baltic Sea? Yeah, it has a loose connection to the Baltic Sea trade. It doesn't really have, it's just a sort of a historic name. It's an institution. So what is the Baltic Exchange? The Baltic Exchange is basically an informational exchange about world shipping. It's an informational exchange. So let's read about it. The Baltic Exchange, the former Baltic Exchange, because this is no longer, this building is no longer the Baltic. This was the Baltic Exchange up until 1992. This building you see here on St. Mary Axe. The London, so the former Baltic Exchange, this one was destroyed by an IRA bombing in 1992. It is now in new premises in St. Mary Axe. So they actually moved across the street to another old building, and we'll see it here in a minute. But the more interesting thing is, what the heck does the Baltic Exchange do? It sounds sort of obscure, but it actually is it's when you look at the City of London, you've got these pieces, these less than 10 really important pieces, institutions that together make up this collective institutional power that forms this control network of the world financial system, and by extension, the world power structure as a whole, you could say. So the Baltic Exchange, really, really interesting institution. It is a unique international shipping exchange. Its members comprise merchants, ship owners, ship brokers, and other companies associated with shipping. It regards itself as the only self-regulated international freight market in the world. So it's self-regulated. Imagine that. They decide what their own regulations are. But business is mainly done between offices. Other members include, I'm not quite sure what that means, between offices. Other members include maritime lawyers, financiers, and arbitrators. So there you go. Here's world shipping. Control world shipping, you control the world. Let's face it. Control world shipping, you control the world. And this is a broker for basically ships. I need some ships to haul some cargo. The Baltic Exchange is ultimately where you're going to go. Now, there might be lesser exchanges, and they might do their trading on the Baltic Exchange. The Baltic Exchange is where world shipping, this is where it happens, or it did happen until the IRA bombed this building in 1992. And maybe you can understand why the IRA made this a target. I told my Irish friend I was going after the city of London, and I bet that got his ears pricked up. He used to run the newspaper, online version of the newspaper of the political arm of the IRA. He did it off the server of the math department at the University of Texas back when this bombing happened. And he told me he got to collect the donations from the website. People donated to the website. He got to keep that money. That was his deal with Sinn Féin, the political arm of the IRA. Is that I'll do your website, and in exchange, I get to keep any donations that come in from the website. And they're like, fine, because they didn't think much would come in. I think he's lived off that for since the early 90s. And at first, he ran it off a server in the math department at the University of Texas, and he sort of got busted for that, and it was written up in the New York Times, in the Wall Street Journal, and when the chairman of the physics department, who's an Irish American guy, Austin Gleason, he went to bat for my friend, and argued, no, this is free speech. The 90s were crazy, man. They were crazy. The IRA bombings have really dropped off. So it's sort of old school to talk about IRA bombings. There's what it looked like. You can see at the bottom of the screen after the April 1992 bombing by the 1,000-pound bomb. 1,000-pound bomb. Blew it up. And they eventually decided they had to tear it down. They couldn't save the building. They decided it was too structurally damaged. Now the Baltic Exchange itself just moved across the street to this building, and this is at 30. This is still on St. Mary Axe. So again, another nice building, nothing too fancy. So that's where all that was happening. The Baltic Exchange, where the ship brokers get together and decide who gets to ship what around the world. Yeah, this is where it ultimately happens. Now, in the old where the old building was, they built where the building that got blown up. They built this thing. this is called the Gherkin. This is a really unique skyscraper in London. It's right where the Baltic Exchange used to be, and you can see it's called the Gherkin because it looks like a cucumber. They say, Anyway, it's like 41 stories, I think. And of course, it's an office building. It's part of a bunch of this did not exist when I was last in that part of London. It didn't exist. It didn't exist when I was working near the city. It's really odd building. What do you think of it? I don't know. What do you think of it? Let's see. Who's in the chat? Let's check out the chat. Butt plug building, Green Ozone says. Yeah, well, I can see your point. Reberhart, good evening, Badlanders. Hello, Matt. Admiralty law, right. Zowie. Okay. Yeah, okay. So some of you are into the idea of admiralty law. It's like, why is admiralty law so important? Why is the law of the sea so important? Well, put that together with what we just said, that part of the control mechanism of the world in this installed chip city of London is the Baltic Exchange. Now, just to say, why is it called the Baltic Exchange? Is it because it started about the Baltic trade? I don't know, but it comes from a coffee house. It started in a coffee house. The Virginia and Baltic Coffee House, which was in the city of London. And like the London Stock Exchange, it grew out of a coffee house and moved in. It just grew and grew. So men would get together there and do business in these coffee shops. So the Virginia and Baltic, the name, it sounds like they did, business in the New World and business in the old Hanseatic Baltic routes, right? Maybe that's accurate. I don't know. Maybe it's just a name. So there's a gherkin too, looking down St. Mary Axe, I think. All right. Now let's go on. So we're at that's number 5. Let's go on to number 6. Number 6, we're going on Lime Street, and here we are. It's this is Lloyd's. This is number 6 on Lime Street. This is Lloyd's of London. You've heard of Lloyd's of London, right? You've heard of Lloyd's of London. Lloyd's. It's just Lloyd's. That's all it's named. Lloyd's. And Lloyd's, this building you see, it's really cool building. It's very, it's very modern. This is the Lloyd's headquarters. And of course, it's not always been the Lloyd's headquarters. It's a recent version of it here on Lime Street. And it's award, like the Gherkin, it's an award-winning architectural masterpiece to many. It's an interesting building. It's not as unfriendly as you think. Here is the exchange. There's the trading floor. So they actually do still have a place inside. So what is Lloyd's? Lloyd's is, as an institution, it's where insurance syndicates get together and pool their money to insure each other. And this is the ultimate backstop of all of the insurance that goes on in world shipping. World shipping. If you want to ship something around the world, you need ships. So you go to the Baltic Exchange, and you need to have them insured. This is the system that the Dutch invented, and you need it insured. And they brought it over. And Lloyd's is ultimately where the big insurers go to basically backstop each other. And they buy contracts with each other, and they make money off of these contracts with each other. And it's got a really nice trading floor, you see, and you can see it's really interesting. It's got this little thing in the middle, this little tholos, I guess is the architectural term for a round temple-like thing with columns. Tholos, I think is the right word. I learned that in our history class. And it's got a bell in that, and that's a bell from a sunken ship, a sunken French ship from around the year 1800. And they salvage the bell, and they keep it there, and they ring that bell whenever there's some kind of maritime disaster, like a ship is lost or something like that. They will ring that bell. And hopefully they don't have to do that very often. But the people who work there, they go in and they mingle around each other. All these insurance syndicates that we just mentioned, they have like little cubicles here. It's like a trade show, but it's ongoing, and they just go to each other and they walk over to each other's desks and they sit down and they talk to each other and they make deals right at each other's desks still to this day. So can you imagine that type of concentration of leverage and power? We're not talking about the stock exchange where anybody can buy and sell stock over the internet. We're talking about a very specialized market where only certain people get to participate in it. And these are the people who do the work of ensuring that the system of world trade and world governance keeps going on right here in the good old city of London. So that's Lloyd's. So Lloyd's began at a coffee shop, a little bit nearby, a little bit to the west. They began in a coffee shop, and they began doing these reinsurance deals, insuring each other, insurance pools, back in the 17th century. And they've been doing it ever since. And they are, along with the Baltic Exchange and the Royal Exchange and the stock and the Bank of England, stock market, these core institutions that make up what we call the City of London. It's more important than the City of London government, you can see, is these things. And then finally, let's walk over to, so that's number 6. I think that's the rest of Lloyd's. Yeah. But while we're on the subject, let's just mention coffee houses, Let's mention coffee houses. So we've got coffee. Coffee wasn't a part of ancient Britain or medieval Britain. Coffee, think of how important coffee is. Coffee came to England, came to London in the 17th century, so the 1600s. Here stood the first London coffee house at the sign of Pasqua Rose's Head. So this is the site of this narrow little street nearby to all these places you see. And this is where the first coffee shop was. Now, it didn't become a financial institution. It was just a coffee shop. But here it is, and it was based on ones. So they think coffee, I guess, started in Ethiopia, made its way up to the Arab world, and then made its way across Europe and eventually hit London in the 1600s. And coffee shops just sprung up everywhere, and they changed everything. And one can, would there have been capitalism as we know it without coffee? I don't know, because from the very beginning, they were social places as well. They weren't just a place to stop by and get your morning cup of joe, and sit staring off into space. These were social places. You went there to mingle with other men having coffee. So it's an institution. It's not just coffee, the product. It was coffee shop as an institution. Spread rapidly, and grew the financial power of the world out of coffee. You thought Howard Schultz was a fool, right? So here's another one. Let's head over to number 7. Last, we're going to number 7 over there at the other edge of the map. And this is number 7 is this is the London Metal Exchange. The London Metal Exchange. Well, first, let's just read about Lloyd's. We didn't finish reading about Lloyd's. Lloyd's of London is an international insurance market. Insurance risks are placed with a mix of individual underwriting members with unlimited liability and corporate members trading with limited liability, who together provide the capital base for 139 syndicates. So it's private individuals, and they make up syndicates. And the business from all parts of the world is placed at Lloyd's through the 170 authorized firms of Lloyd's brokers. They get to go on that floor and talk to each other. Its new building was opened in November 1986, and it really is an incredible building. All right. So coffee shops, we did this. Now we're at the London Metal Exchange at number 7 over there in the end. This is the last one we're going to talk about on our tour, our last stop on our tour. Before we're going to go, but we got one more stop after this. The London Metal Exchange. The London Metal Exchange is an international terminal market where copper, lead, zinc, tin, aluminum alloy, and nickel are traded in standard units of guaranteed quality. So it's actual trade in metals. Paper trading, they're not going to bring the metals right there, presumably. Well, they have to put them somewhere. Trade is conducting inter-office and by open outcry. All right. The latter involving the 14 ring firms whose representatives call out their offers for sale and bids to buy in 4 sessions a day. So 4 sessions a day, they do this. They just get together and they call out and they do the old-fashioned bidding. Okay. The market moved in 1994 to a prestigious new premises at 56 Leadenhall Street. Okay. All right, so it moved, the old building is into this old building. So we're looking at, if you're with me on the tour, we're looking at the building, and I can tell you they used to do all that in this building, all that broker call out metal exchange, but they now do it. They do that elsewhere. And this building, though, they've kept the building. It's nice. And in it, until just a couple months ago, was the War of the Worlds virtual reality experience was housed in there. But they shut that down, unfortunately. But I guess there's a touring company. So that's H.G. Wells, of course, and it's about an alien invasion of Earth. Not that an alien invasion of Earth would ever have anything at all to do with the City of London and world government and world banking. Those two things are completely have nothing to do with each other, right? Can we say that? Can we say it like that? Okay, clip that. I'm supposed to say that when I go on a rant. I'm supposed to say that. All right, this is the new London Metal Exchange. You can see it's really modern, and they're those little guys just hanging out, yelling at each other. But it's not anywhere near the city. Well, it is near the city of London. It's outside the old official city of London, just on the other side of the old city of London walls. It's red on the map, so it's a little bit, but it's brand new. This was built, I think, in 2004. It's really nice. So that's where they do all the metal exchange. So there you have it. We had corporate city of London, medieval government below the crown, and then we've got the London, the Royal Exchange. We had that Lord Mayor's residence, Royal Exchange, Bank of England, and then the Baltic Exchange, shipping information and ships. And then Lloyd's, the insurance of shipping. And then the London Metals Exchange. So those are your core institutions on our walking tour today. Now, one more stop before we move on. One more stop is that we talked about coffee. I'm taking you on my walking tour. I would not be the Rick Steves of Badlands if I were not going to say, well, now it's time. Do they have coffee shops still in the city of London? And the answer is yes. Of course, they've got lots of coffee shops, and they've got some, nice ones, and they're okay. Now they're not used for public trading anymore. Perhaps there may be people making deals there, but so we're going to go to this one called the Grind. You can see in the photo, and it's very nearby the very first coffee shop from 1652. We're almost back at the station, at the bank tube station, and we're going to go in here. We're going to take some time before we go on with the tour, and here's where you can go grab whatever you want. Now you might wonder, are there Starbucks in the city of London? And the answer is yes. There's a bunch of Starbucks, and we could go to one of those two. We'll walk by one of those two. I'll show you where they are if you want to get Starbucks instead of the Grind. It's up to you. And then we're going to, this is where we're calling our walking tour. We're saying we've come to the end of our walking tour for today. And just we're going to reflect on where we've gotten. So we got all those places we mentioned. And they got a Rumble rant from D Set. Another wonderful show. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, D Set. Thank you, D Set. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. All right. Street. Okay. Nice hint, Matt. Just like no talking about JFK. Okay. All right. Yeah. I like to create tension and drama and suspense, foreshadowing about things that on my shows, just because why not? Why not have that fun? Okay. 17 D-set. Greed, although my sarcastic humor would be misunderstood in London. So everybody, grab whatever you want here at the coffee shop. And so where are we going to go from here? Here is London in the year 1300. Now, the area we've been walking around, so the city of London, what we now call the city of London, is pretty much exactly this area that is this sort of potato-shaped thing on the north bank of the Thames in this map. That's the city of London. It's what the city was in the year 1300. This was it. Because this was inside the old city walls. Now, where did this city, how was it built? Where did it come from? I think we'll get to that next week, because I think I'm going to take a few weeks and just let's keep going on our walking tour. And we're going to go beyond the city of London. We may walk around the entire world. Who knows? Maybe we'll be so energetic we'll do that. So I think, it's summer. Summer, as I said, the summer abroad. It's our summer abroad experience, which I'm so more cool in. I think the World Cup did open my heart to the rest of the world in a big way, especially the European nations, and realize the people of those nations are oppressed by the globalist system just as we are. And there are our brothers and sisters and allies in this. So the map we've been looking at is in that red box there, and the greater part of the city of London, which we'll explore next week. We'll walk around, we'll increase our orbit, and we'll walk around a little bit more, I think, because I think I'm just going to do this, like I said. So that gives you some perspective about where we were. But I just did want to mention one last thing. So the financial institutions themselves have broken out of the confines of this 1 square mile in London, the important financial institutions. There's sort of a newer financial district that's been built that's a little bit downriver on the Thames. So if you look at the map, downriver is to the right. That's flowing towards the ocean there. And if you could see, the city of London is on the north side. Upstream from it, the river takes a sharp bend to the south. You can see that's where Westminster is, right there on that shoulder. That's Westminster, or Westminster Abbey, and all the cool stuff in West London, in the western part of London, is there. And then the city of London, we'll get to why it's built there. There's an important reason why it is where it is. And then you go downstream, and the river makes that big dip, makes a big dip to the south and comes back up before proceeding onto the sea. And that is the new financial districts is right at sort of the neck of that bulge hanging down. It's called Canary Wharf. It was Docklands area in centuries ago, and even until the 20th century. And then it was redeveloped. The Docklands all fell apart because they didn't need the shipping anymore. The shipping went elsewhere. The control of shipping stayed in London, but the shipping itself went elsewhere, of course. And in East London, which fell into decline. So this area called the Isle of Dogs and Canary Wharf. So when I stayed in London, I stayed in Canary Wharf area, and I used to go walking around the Isle of Dogs at night, just along the basins, because I was so curious of what things look like, So I spent a lot of time out walking and around that part called the Isle of Dogs, and that's where the new financial district is. And the building I worked in is the building in the photo with the pyramid on the top. That's One Canada Square, I think. I can't remember the name. I worked on like maybe the 10th or 11th floor. And they put me up where I got to live was about 5 minutes walk away in a really cool apartment that looked right down over all this, looked down over the Millennium Dome, which had just been built. And it was super great. It was right next to, I think it was an apartment building is owned partly by Robert De Niro because he had his restaurant there. Man, I was just living high on the hog. That November and December of 2000, man. Freshly hired, they sent me over there to learn foreign exchange, options trading. If I had stayed working for Barclays, I'd have a completely different life. I can't even imagine what my life would be if I'd stayed working for Barclays. But it's you can have all the financial institutions all over the place now because everything's electronic now, right? So there we are. So we're going to go on. We're going to explore Roman Britain next week, I think. That's what we'll pick up from there, and we're going to go to the origins of the city of London, because we want to keep exploring the city of London because it's the key to understanding the power structure of the world. So we're gonna hang around for at least another episode talking about how the city of London sort of came to be and learn some lessons from that, maybe about the Norman conquest, etc. All right. So I think we're gonna head on out. I'm going to say thank you to. Well, first of all, we've got thank you to our sponsor for tonight, and then I'll come back and say goodbye to everybody. Check the chat again. But for now, we've got, and then we're gonna raid Only Lands, which I'm gonna be on tonight. I'm gonna be on Only Lands tonight. I'm scheduled. I always like being on Only Lands. Let's see. What we want is not close. We want Zach. All right.
One hero, one mission to deliver softness to America.
No, Chi-Chi, we can't stop For Snacks Dude, we have to deliver all of these soft disclosure gift cards.
He goes by Zach Payne.
The motion detector.
Hey, stop fighting over the beer brush.
Life finds a way.
Hydrate your elbows. Moisturize your soul. Feel the rhythm together. Makes you feel alive and let the lotion roll. Soft disclosure. Hear the cry. Maximum softness. Do or die.
Muffin, hit it.
Soft disclosure, really, if you haven't tried it, you're really missing out. This tallow bar is really nice. It's just really nice. It's your skin will just love this because it's all natural ingredients, vanilla coffee, smells like vanilla coffee. Yeah, it's really great. Really check out Soft Disclosure. Can't say enough good things about it. So, good evening. Now, yes. So we need the chat. I need the. Thanks, Matt. Nostalgia Lost. So, does anybody have the link to Onlylands so we can raid them? If you've got the link to Onlylands, I can go find it here if nobody has it. A lot of people probably jumped ship already. So, all right, my feed. Okay. So, okay. Oh, all right. Thank you, Raw Shark. Liz. Okay. Rorschach. Okay, so there we go. Confirm raid. So confirm raid, and I'll play you off. See you guys next week, or see you right on Onlylands in a few minutes.